Good morning to all. Today we will discuss a short case. 63-year-old male patient coming from Patna. He is a manual labor and presented with complaints of right shoulder pain for 4 months duration and swelling over the right shoulder for 1 month duration. The shoulder pain was gradual in onset, dull aching in character, and non-progressive, non-radiating, and increased with the activities and decreased with rest. 3 months after the onset of shoulder pain, he noticed a swelling at the right shoulder after an exertion, which was gradual in onset, painless, and non-progressive. There is no history of other swelling, and the symptom did not limit his activities of daily living and routine work. There is no history of fever, no history of loss of appetite or loss of weight, and no history of trauma, no history of night pain and other joint pain, and no history of bowel and bladder disturbances. On past history, he is on regular medication for hypertension and hypothyroidism, and there is a history of abdominal surgery for gastric ulcer 30 years back and bilateral inguinal hernia surgery for 8 years back. There is also an history of spinal surgery at the upper cervical level 12 years back for insensitivity to pain and temperature sensation over the right side of the body and difficulty in moving the right ring and little finger, for which he undergone a spinal surgery at the upper cervical level. Personal history is not an alcoholic or a smoker, and family history is not significant. Coming to general examination, the patient is moderately built and nourished. There is no features of ligamental laxity, and upper segment lower segment ratio is normal, and no neurocutaneous markers. In head to foot examination, there is a vertical healed surgical scar at the upper part of the cervical spine, which is healed by the primary intention, and the neck is apparently short and low posterior hairline, and there is terminal restriction of the neck movements also. And there is a structural kyphoscoliosis at the thoracic region with a rib hump at the right side after doing the Adams forward bending test. There is no compensatory lumbar scoliosis, and plumb passes through the gluteal cleft. There is also a surgical scar at the epigastrium and bilateral inguinal region, and there is a deformity at the right middle finger. At the PAP joint, the joint is fixed in flexion and ulnar deviation, and in DAP joint, it is fixed in flexion and radial deviation. Coming to neurological examination, bulk, tone, and power are normal in both sides. And coming to reflex, biceps, triceps, supinator are decreased on the right side but normal on the normal side. Knee reflex is bilaterally normal. Angle reflex is absent or angle reflex is reduced on right side and normal on the left side. And plantar reflex is equivocal, and abdominal reflexes are decreased response on the right side. So there is asymmetrical reflex, asymmetrical distribution of the reflexes. And the coming to sensation, touch, pressure, and joint position are normal on both sides, but the vibration is decreased on the right side. There is marked reduction of the pain, heat, and cold on the right side. Other cerebellar signs are within normal limits. Coming to the local examination of the right shoulder. Before that, I will show the videos of the reflex examination. This is on the right side. Left side, it is normal. The angle jerk on the left side. On the left side, the reflexes are normal. On right side, it is decreased, but knee reflex is normal bilateral. Coming to local examination of the right shoulder, attitude of the patient. Patient is standing with shoulder adducted, elbow extended and wrist in neutral position. The contour of the right shoulder is altered due to the contour of the shoulder is altered due to the swollen joint, and swelling is more prominent on the anterior aspect. Apparently, there is an infraclavicular hollowing is present, and sternoclavicular joint, medial end of the clavicle, acromial clavicle, coracoid process, spine of scapula, and the medial border of the scapula looks normal, and there is anterior and posterior axillary fold are normal. There is no swelling, sinus or scars in the axilla and shoulder region. There is no muscle wasting in the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, paraspinal muscles, deltoid and trapezius. Coming to palpation, there is local rise of temperature present and no joint line tenderness. There is no irregularity or thickening over the sternoclavicular joint, medial end of the clavicle, acromioclavicular joint, spine of the scapula, and medial border of the scapula. And the humeral head is could not be palpated because of the effusion, and bicep tendon is felt and found to be normal. Coming to the movements, all movements of the right shoulder are full and painless, but associated with the crepitus. There is a flexion of 160 degree and extension of 40 degree, abduction of 90 degree when the scapula is stabilized, and the internal rotation is 50 and external rotation is 60 degree. And the measurements, the mid-arm circumference of the right arm is 2 centimeter higher, maybe because of the Pocoyo sign on the right arm. And the special test for rotator cuff, Jobs test, lag sign, and belly press test and lift off tests are negative. For slab lesion, O'Brien test is negative. For biceps, the Ergason test and speed test are also negative, and the application test for the instability is also negative. Neurological examination, bulk tone and power are normal, and power is 5 by 5 on bilaterally, and touch pressure are decreased on touch pressure are normal on C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1 region, but the vibrations is decreased, and the pain and temperature are markedly reduced on the affected limb. The mode of examination, C5 shoulder abduction and elbow flexion, C6 elbow flexion and wrist extension, and C7 elbow extension and wrist flexion, C8 finger flexion and T1 finger abduction, all are normal with normal power. And there is no peripheral nerve thickening, especially on the ulnar nerve, and the radial or ulnar pulses are normal. Coming to summary, 63-year-old male patient had a history of spine surgery 12 years back for insensitivity to cold and hot, now presented with complaints of the right shoulder pain and swelling over the right shoulder. On examination, there is gross effusion of the right shoulder joint, and movements are within normal limits. On palpation, there is local rise of temperature, but there is no joint line tenderness. All special tests are negative, and neurovascular examination, and there is touch pressure and joint positions are normal, but vibration is decreased, and sensation, pain and hot sensations are decreased on the right side, and presence of asymmetrical reflexes also.
Tony, you have presented a case of shoulder swelling with perhaps an underlying neurology, and the patient has got a fairly good range of movement without restriction. The shoulder joint without restriction of movement, I wouldn't take it is a painful joint, because the pain may not be pain. The pain is there. You are already showing in the middle picture an extended internal rotation, which is almost near normal. Understand. And the hand muscles also show some wasting, if I am correct. I am not very sure. So
Yes,
with this, what will be your first presumptive diagnosis? Because when you are given that case in an examination, because it is any joint which is swollen, either due to infection or inflammation, is usually painful. The painless swollen joints, we should look for pain and did you say that the pain and temperature sensations are normal?
yes, sir.
Did you
So
test the temperature?
dissociative sensation, sir.
Temperature is rest or absent?
Pain, temperature are absent, sir.
On one side.
Yes, sir. On the right side.
Only right side. And he had undergone a spinal surgery how many years ago?
Sir, 12 years ago.
The first surgery was for the some sort of a duodenal ulcer or whatever. Second was hernia. Third was a spine surgery.
Yes, sir.
Is he still working as a manual laborer?
For last 1 year, he is not working as usual.
Because of his shoulder involvement, or is it because of lack of toughness?
But he can able to do the routine activities in the home.
So his present concern is only swollen joints.
Yes, sir.
He doesn't complain of any sensory problems as far as he is concerned.
It's not concerned.
He is able to eat well.
Yes, sir.
With the right hand.
Yes.
Did you ask him whether he could hold water in a cup of palm?
Yes, sir. It's all muscles.
He is able to.
All muscles are 5/5 power, sir.
All right. Okay.
He has no functional difficulties, sir.
Okay. And he said crepitus on motion.
Yes, in every moment there is a crepitus.
Right. Okay. What would be your working diagnosis?
Is the range of movement increased? Is there abnormal movement around the shoulder?
No, sir.
That is what I was trying to.
No, sir. The movements are normal, not increased.
So your positive findings are a ruptured distal biceps tendon, right?
Yes. Yes.
Then you have got a swollen shoulder,
Yes.
right? And loss of sensation and pain and temperature is concerned. These are the only positive findings.
Yes, sir.
So what could be the reason for the absent reflex on the right side? Which tendon is contracting?
The right side there is asymmetric tendon reflexes, sir. The knee reflex is acting, but other reflexes are absent or reduced.
Not only the biceps, others are also affected.
Yes.
Okay.
What about the plantar? Is it upgoing?
Sir, it is not upgoing, sir. It is equivocal.
Are there any signs of upper motor neuron lesions in the lower limb?
No, sir.
No exaggerated tendon reflexes, no ankle clonus.
No, sir.
Did you look for clonus?
Yes, sir.
There is no evidence of such findings.
Yes, sir. There is no evidence of clonus or UMN features, sir.
What could be your diagnosis?
So considering the dissociative anesthesia and the painless joint, my first diagnosis neuropathic joint, right shoulder, secondary to syringomyelia. Sir.
What could be the, in a syringomyelia, what are the usual findings, neurological findings?
Usually there is loss of pain and temperature and asymmetric tendon reflexes.
What happens in the lower limb?
On the side, there is dissociative anesthesia and asymmetric reflexes. Other side is normal.
So, what about the Popeye sign? Is it related to this?
I think it is not related to this because he's a manual labor and heavy worker. He did not remember any such a history, but maybe happened during his heavy work, and because of insensitivity to or decreased sensation, he maybe missed that one.
So you can, do you have any differential diagnosis?
Sir, septic arthritis. Sir.
What sort of septic arthritis? Now we entered into a troubled spot.
Sir, because of the swollen joint.
No, it is a painless joint. He is not having any evidence of sepsis. He doesn't have any general symptoms of infection.
To
Don't say
diagnose
septic
arthritis,
arthritis.
any arthritis, what should be the finding?
No, there is no joint line tenderness and the
No,
range
for
of
an arthritis, what should be the finding? There should be
there should
joint
be
line
painful
tenderness
restriction of
and
movements
painful
and joint
restriction
line.
of all ranges of movement. So there should be painful restriction of all ranges of movement or most ranges of movement and joint line tenderness. If the patient is having these two findings, you can confidently make a diagnosis of arthritis. Whether it is osteoarthritis or septic arthritis is another question. But to make a diagnosis of arthritis, these two findings should be there. Is your patient having these two findings?
No, sir. There is no joint line tenderness and the movements are pains. And not
Is a diagnosis of septic arthritis a important diagnosis, something that has to be acted upon quickly or not?
should be acted quickly.
So you should be able to diagnose it properly also.
Okay, sir.
Do you have any other diagnosis? JP sir.
If your diagnosis is Charcot's or a neuropathic joint, never make a diagnosis of a septic arthritis. You can get, of course, tuberculosis superadded to it sometimes with a diabetic patient. So those two conditions that present with the swollen shoulder is either a neuropathic due to syringomyelia or a neuropathy due to diabetes. In our hospital, Tamala, you also come across tuberculosis of the shoulder with the swollen joints, because many patients undergoing dialysis for many years, they do develop tuberculosis. We have come across quite a few. Kishore will probably know so many patients where we have started the patients on anti-tuberculous, aspirated and things like that, but never operated. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
I think there were, especially when what was his name, the other nephrologist, Jayant. We used to see many patients with tuberculosis. So in that hospital scenario, you have to consider three diagnoses. Number one, syringomyelia. Number two, diabetes with neuropathy. Number 3, tuberculosis, if the patient has got an underlying well, kidney disease or something because they are immunocompromised and things like that. But that is a condition where you get painful swollen joint. There is a painless swollen joint with multiple
Having
surgical
committed, having committed the diagnosis of septic arthritis, you can still substantiate that. Try to substantiate that how the patient is having an insensate joint. You can substantiate your diagnosis by telling. Examiner may sometimes agree, but it is a corpus diagnosis.
Kishore, I will not agree with it even with a big lump of salt.
Okay, sir. I was trying to help him.
No. Because it's a painless mobile joint and he has demonstrated extensive mobility. You look at that picture which showed an extended internal rotation, which is usually restricted in case of periarthritis or whatever. Here he is demonstrating full flexion and abduction of the elbow. I mean, that's a forward flexion and internal rotation. So almost it is an exaggerated shoulder movement. You don't get it. I might probably agree with the diagnosis of chronic synovitis like bilinodular synovitis, but that doesn't usually affect the shoulder. But if you want to probe him further, probably an inflammatory swelling can be considered. I don't know whether you can consider the sarcoma, which is pyrotic. I am not sure about it, but I will stick with the diagnosis of neuropathy because you have got solid findings. Number 1, history of say dissociated sensation. Number 2, a history of spinal surgery. Number 3, there is a painful swollen joint. Number 4, there are no restriction of movement. So with this finding, we should be able to make a diagnosis confidently that this is a neuropathic joint. Diabetes should be considered because that's another condition which produces significant neuropathy in the shoulder. Of course, crepitus on motion. That's another finding which he elicited. So all the findings, Tony, you presented are in favor of a neuropathic joint, no doubt about it. And syringomyelia is one of the commonest cause for neuropathy in the shoulder. So you can stick on to it. Examiner may not, probe for other diagnosis, but don't jump into the trap saying that it is an infected this thing. Tuberculosis cannot be excluded sometimes because some patients are diabetic and then you may not be able to do that. But tuberculosis is usually a painful process. So I will be happy with the diagnosis of a neuropathic joint. Now, how will you confirm? Proceed. Anybody wants to add up anything? Because it should not be only 2 of us are probing him, myself and Kishore. Anybody could add? Leo, anybody else?
No, sir, nothing to add at this point, sir.
How will you proceed further?
Sir, I would like to confirm my diagnosis. First, I would like to do the blood investigation like total count, differential count, ESR and CRP to rule out the chance of infection. Then I would like to take the X-rays of shoulder and spine also.
Show us what you have got.
Pardon, sir?
Blood picture. Show us what you have got. Blood picture.
Sir, the patient OPയിൽ വന്നായിരുന്നു അതുകൊണ്ട് എക്സ്റേ മാത്രമേ
You have only the X-rays.
Yes.
Yeah. You have demonstrated that there is a little bit of. You tell us the findings with respect to the X-ray shoulder.
The PV of the right shoulder showing there is marker reduced joint is and there is some destruction of the proximal humerus and generalized osteopenia and there is apparent subchondral sclerosis and there is also destruction of the bone around the greater tuberosity.
What is the most striking thing here in the X-ray, AP view? Leave the abducted lateral view, axial view later.
effusions, soft tissue shadow for effusion.
There is a huge soft tissue shadow in the deltoid region. Understand? It could be a large deltoid bursa, subdeltoid. There's a huge soft tissue shadow. You can see actually a deltoid muscle getting inserted in the middle of the humerus, but where your arrow is right now, pointer, demonstrate the lower limit of the deltoid, subdeltoid bursa. So there is a huge amount of effusion inside, and perhaps a little bit of narrowing of the shoulder joint space. I was expecting a considerable amount of destruction, but that's not there. Except a mild amount of sclerosis, and this thing you could probably consider it as a case of an osteoarthritis findings. Some changes in the femoral shaped head, but of course it has reduced joint space and sclerosis. And greater tuberosity also showing some amount of sclerosis. Any other X-ray there? No.
And
You should always look. No. You go back to the shoulder again. Yeah, whenever you are shown a shoulder X-ray with part of the chest X-ray there, as a postgraduate student facing the examination uphill task, look at the chest also to make sure that you are not dealing with an active focus of tuberculosis. Understand? Because it's the right apex is the commonest site, so you have to look for that, whether there are any evidence of any lung infection, which might give you extra credit. Now you may show the other X-ray, please. That hand finger injury may be due to he was sustained probably during work, probably work related. Yes or no?
He is not aware of that injury, sir.
That appears a little.
Trauma history, sir.
Sorry?
He didn't give any trauma to the finger, sir.
Yeah, but if you look at the thumb X-ray, that metacarpophalangeal joint of the thumb, could you enlarge it a little bit, that picture? Because the IP joint of the finger looks a little distorted. You can't see it from here. Whereas the thumb definitely shows evidence of exaggerated form of an osteoarthritis with the destruction of the joint, metacarpophalangeal. Yeah, that again supports your diagnosis of a probably your that helps actually metacarpophalangeal joint arthritis. I think that's because of his sensory deficit there, and probably subsequent osteoarthritis which goes into osteoarthritis. Okay, blood picture is not available. With that, I would probably still stick on to the diagnosis of neuropathy. Only thing is, it has not worsened. Probably the surgery has helped him. That's all. If he was not operated upon, because probably the cord damage would have worsened further. And do we have any other neurological findings? I mean, investigations like. There is a situation where you might go into the records for the neurosurgery, or you might have anything like an MRI, etc. Do you have anything of that sort?
Sir, MRI is there, sir.
Okay, then let us know. Now, very seldom I ask for an MRI, but this is one situation we need an MRI. Wilson Ipser is just prompted. Do you have anything to say, sir, at this stage, before we move on to the MRI? I just saw Ipser somewhere around.
Can you hear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you hear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Audible.
Can you show the X-ray shoulder? In the X-ray shoulder, you can see a feature known as acetabolization of glenoid. It is a feature of chronic arthritis, especially neuropathic type. The glenoid will show features suggestive of an acetabulum. It will be a deep cup.
Okay, sir.
That
Here
also
is
you
probably some, you need an X-ray of the opposite shoulder for comparison. That will probably give you the,
I
when
feel
the
this is
patient comes again.
almost
Yeah.
typical. It is actually arching above the head of the humerus. It's a continuous arc.
Very true, very true.
It is described as acetabulization. It looks like an acetabulum.
Okay, sir.
Regarding the diagnosis, it is better not to say much of a differential diagnosis because it is almost crystal clear with the features. That is all I have to add.
Thank you, sir.
If the patient comes again, get an X-ray of the opposite shoulder.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah, because that will, the sign which Wilson sir alluded to, will be able to appreciate if the other side is not, not like this, so that you will be able to appreciate and will not forget that sign once again. Okay, what are we going to do about it? What does he want?
You can show the MRI. Tony, do you have the MRI picture?
No, sir. They didn't bring the MRI, sir. The impression is herniation of the cerebellar tonsil for 80
അഭിലാഷം
millimeter
മ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യോ?
through the foramen magnum, suggesting Arnold-Chiari malformation 1, an ill-defined central hyperintensity of the spinal cord on T2 weighted and extending from C2 to C6 with the cystic changes, features suggestive of syringomyelia.
Who has reported? Raghavan?
Yes, sir. It is Raghavan's report.
Ah, right, okay. So trust him. It must be a few years ago because Raghavan was working there many years ago.
2008 റിപ്പോർട്ട് ആയിട്ടാ തോന്നണേ സാർ കണ്ടിട്ട്.
Ah, right. Quite likely. I know. He was there for quite some time and then left. Okay, now we have got a full picture, syringomyelia, cervical, spine surgery, etc. And what should you do about it? That's the next question. Kishore, do you have anything to add about it?
Nothing, sir. Apart from that, apart from the diagnosis, that most people may be making the diagnosis, but your examination should be proper. Initially, you were telling about the reflexes, you were discussing about reflexes, then you jumped on to the shoulder examination, and after that, you went on to your neurological examination again. So, that is not the proper way. You have to examine the patient's complaint is swelling of the shoulder. So you can examine the shoulder. Definitely the patient is having neurological problems. So at the end of your examination, you have to quickly look for the neurology. That should start from the higher functions cranial nerves to rule out the upper story problems. And where all you have to look for the sensation that has to be shown. You should learn that also. C5 where will you touch? C6 where will you touch? C7, C8, T1. There are certain points. Have you heard of ASIA classification? That is actually for spine injuries. They have prescribed certain spots where you are supposed to touch for looking for sensation. So that points has to be touched if the examiner is asking you to demonstrate checking for the sensation. And motor also, you should know how to check for the motor, upper limb, lower limb. Upper limb, most people will be knowing. Lower limb also, you should know. L2 to S1, how to check for the motor in a one sweep of movement. So, when a neurological case is there, the examiner will be more interested in your examination techniques than a diagnosis. Okay, so your presentation was a bit haphazard. That's all.
I forgot to add a couple of things. Number one, get an X-ray of the opposite shoulder. Number two, having seen that X-ray, there is a huge deltoid swelling. Very often, we were before the days of MRI and other things, when we suspect that it could be a neurology, we used to aspirate the knee joint because not the knee, aspirate the joint as such. The aspirate will show usually a cherry red disposal synovial fluid, which actually is blood inside the synovial fluid. That is actually a diagnostic of the neuropathic joint. That's because of repeated bleeding, which is actually hemolyzed, and then you get that color. So when the patient comes again, get an X-ray of the opposite shoulder, number one, and also subject him to an aspiration so that you will become familiar with that fluid nature. So that's usually colored cherry red, and that actually is due to the repeated episodes of bleeding which occurs painlessly, and that may be one finding which gives you a clue that it could be a neuropathic joint. If you don't have facilities for MRI in the hospital where you are working, neurology can be done. You would be able to do an aspiration, which will definitely substantiate your diagnosis of this thing. You can tell that even in the examination. I'll do simple aspiration and aseptic technique, and the fluid probably will be giving me a clue that it might be due to syringomyelia, or neuropathy. Because that is an accepted standard thing. But it should be done under strict aseptic precautions. What are you going to do as far as treatment is concerned? You need to immobilize. No need to immobilize. He doesn't have any, he is not working. He is able to do his normal activities. Leave him alone, probably. Only thing is protect it. Most important thing in neuropathy is protection. This is not a weight-bearing joint, so he doesn't need an orthosis or anything. If it is knee joint, yes, he will need that. But on the other hand, you have to make sure that his hand sensations are normal. Because if that is affected, he should be careful in protecting his hand from further burns and injuries, because that might get infected. So in the presence of neurology, we should teach them how to protect his hand from subsequent injuries, infections, and inflammations, and that should be attended to. If there are sensory deficits in the lower limb, then he should never walk without a footwear and attend to all these things. So protection, that is a key word in neurology. If the examiner asks you again, what will you do? You will continue to say that you will protect it and then provide him, if necessary, in the lower limb, of course, orthosis and other things. Some people are trying to do arthrodesis in the lower limb, but shoulder, I don't think you need to go ahead with that. Don't get into the trap that you will do a arthroplasty replacement, etc. That is going to fail. But if there is a hand sensory deficit, he has to make sure that he doesn't burn his hand and fingers. That should be my line of approach. Kishore, you have any this thing on?
What are the stages of Charcot's joint? You will be seeing Charcot joint in the foot also, especially in a diabetic patient. So how will you classify? What are the stages? Tony or Abhilash?
Initially, there is a first stage of development, then coalescence, and the third stage is reconstructive stage. There is arthrosis or fibrous ankylosing will occur. In the initial stage, there can be fragmentation and joint.
Whose classification is this? I was remembering fragmentation, stage of fragmentation.
Sir, in stage 1, there is osseous destruction and or subluxation or destruction. Stage 2, there is coalescence stage. The fracture fragments can coalesce.
How long this joint will take to move through these stages?
I don't know.
1 month, 2 months, 2 years, 3 years.
Years.
It will take years. So especially if you are dealing with a weight-bearing joint, for example, a diabetic patient developing Charcot's joint, it is a big problem. So it is important to rule out infection. The treatment is different if the joint is infected. If the joint is not infected, the treatment is something else. So if it is not an infected joint, Charcot's joint, if it is a weight-bearing joint, you protect it. JP sir പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ 3 times. Protect it, protect it, protect it. That is the main treatment. But if it is infected, you have to do something else also. Sometimes it can ulcerate. Protect it means you have to protect the weight bearing areas from developing ulcers. Okay. Once it is infected, you have to find out whether it is involving the vascular involvement is there or not. That is, there is decreased vascularity or there is no involvement of vascularity. The vascularity is normal. So if there is decreased vascularity with infection, that is actually not your baby. You have to send the patient for vascular surgeon's opinion. And sometimes he may be able to vascularize. I am talking about the lower limb because zircomelia is a relatively rare condition. You will not be getting that sometimes only in the examination, but you will be getting Charcot's joint of the foot definitely in your examination. So you have to learn about the stages, treatment protocols, what will you do when the patient is having infection, what will you do when the patient is having a vascular problem. All these things should be learned. I still think that we have to rule out infection in this patient.
An aspirate will help because that will show whether there is any pus or anything. But I don't think there is an infection there. But you cannot rule
Most
out
probably
tuberculosis.
patient may not be having infection, but that should be kept in your mind.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. That's true. That's true. I think we will leave it at that. Anybody,
Okay, sir.
Wilson sir, do you want to add anything with respect to treatments?
No, it's okay.
Right. And what about that aspiration, sir? Do you agree or not?
Which one?
Aspiration. That's a, in our times, we were used to depend on it.
I'm not very
Sorry?
keen on aspiration because there are no signs of infection
Right.
except if it is a cold abscess.
No, that I agree. No, that point I agree, but that only to demonstrate for diagnostic purposes that colorful fluid that usually used to be taught to us as a diagnostic thing, suggestive of a neuropathic joint.
No, that can
That's all.
diagnose.
Because
Maybe
yeah, that's it. Just the color. Yeah. I think I have done that in one or two cases there in the last year or so. I don't know whether the syringe aspirate contained actually that contain. I don't know whether I have shown it to Leo when you were a student.
yes,
I'm not
similar
very sure.
presentation I have seen in
Can't
the
remember
absence of neurological symptoms in cases of supraspinatus arthropathy. Severe cases of supraspinatus arthropathy, they come with swelling, reasonable pain. Here, even that is not to be considered because there is absolutely no pain
That is
and neurological problems are there. In the absence of neurological signs, this type of presentation, the second possible diagnosis can be an advanced supraspinatus arthropathy. In which condition also you can see this acetabolization, where there is similar to the acetabulum, the glenoid and the acromion, lower part of the acromion becomes burrowed out because of the constant friction from the greater tuberosity.